Hello everybody, welcome back to English Building Blocks. Today we're going to talk about the future continuous on the one hand, for example, I will be reading, and on the other hand we will talk about the future perfect simple, for example, I will have finished, and the future perfect continuous. For example, I will have been studying, okay? So we're going to discuss briefly how to construct these correctly, and then we will figure out together how to use them correctly, okay? So without further ado, let's get to it. Let's begin with the construction of the future continuous, which is quite easy really. You simply use the modal verb will followed by a continuous infinitive. Now this continuous infinitive is the naked infinitive be followed by the gerund form of your principal verb. Now remember, this is a continuous infinitive, okay? So this means that it is invariable. You cannot conjugate it. So do not conjugate that verb be, okay? It is an infinitive. Now let's have a look at a couple of examples. First one, I will be having lunch. So you see we use the modal verb will followed by the continuous infinitive be having, okay? Or they will be playing their match. Again, you see we use the modal verb will followed by the continuous infinitive be playing, okay? Now, one little observation, we cannot use stative verbs in the future continuous because when using the future continuous, it has to be an action. So do not use stative verbs in the future continuous, okay? So, the first use of the future continuous is to express a future ongoing action. Now, what does that mean? Well, this means that at a certain time in the future, you will have started your action, but you won't have finished it. You will be in the middle of your action at a certain time in the future, okay? For example, don't call me at 4 o'clock, I will be working. So, tomorrow at 4 o'clock, I will have started my action, working, right? But I won't have finished yet. I will be in the middle of the action, and that is a future ongoing action, and that's why I use the future continuous. I will be working, okay? Another example, if you need me tomorrow afternoon, I will be at my sister's. I will be helping her out with some stuff, okay? So here again, I use the future continuous expressing an ongoing action at a certain time in the future. This means that tomorrow afternoon, I will have started the action of helping out my sister, but I won't have finished yet. I will be in the middle of that action, and that is clearly a future ongoing action, which means I use the future continuous. I will be helping her out, okay? Now, the second use of the future continuous is to express a future plan. Now, obviously, you can also use the present continuous to express that future plan, but if you don't quite remember that, there's a link here on top to check it out, okay? But if you use the future continuous to express a future plan, then you do it in a bit more of a formal way. And there's no real other difference besides that, okay? For example, I will be having a meeting with my boss at the end of the week, okay? So my boss and I have planned to have a meeting at the end of the week. And as this is a bit more of a formal situation, maybe I prefer to use the future continuous to express that future plan, okay? I will be having a meeting with my boss. Okay, another example. I will be visiting my girlfriend's parents for the first time this weekend. So again, I use the future continuous to express a future plan. This is a planned occasion, okay? And as this may be a bit more formal than usual, then maybe I prefer to use the future continuous. I will be visiting my girlfriend's parents, okay? And now let's begin with the construction of the future perfect simple. Again, it is quite easy. You simply use the modal verb will followed by the perfect infinitive. Now, this time the perfect infinitive is constructed by using the naked infinitive have followed by the past participle. Now remember, this past participle can be regular or irregular. Okay, so once again, remember, this is an infinitive, the perfect infinitive. Okay, this means that it is invariable. Do not conjugate the naked infinitive have. Okay, for example, she will have finished by then. So you see, we use the modal verb will followed by the perfect infinitive have finished. Okay, and another example, we will have eaten by the time you arrive. So again, we use the modal verb will followed by the perfect infinitive have eaten. On the other hand, the construction of the future perfect continuous is a little bit more difficult. We use first, as usual, the modal verb will followed by the perfect continuous infinitive. Now, this perfect continuous infinitive begins with the expression have been and is followed by the gerund of the principal verb. Again, this is an infinitive, so it is invariable. You cannot conjugate it. For example, he will have been studying all afternoon. So you see, we begin with the modal verb will, followed by the expression have been, and then the gerund studying. Okay, another example. I will have been cooking all evening. Again, we begin with the modal verb will, followed by the expression have been, and then we have the gerund of the principal verb cooking. Okay, again, I'd like to point out that you cannot use stative verbs in the future perfect continuous because they don't express an action. Okay, so the first use of a future perfect simple is to express a finished action by or before a certain time in the future. Okay, for example, we will have finished our project by the end of the month. So clearly our project is not finished yet. Okay, we're still working on it, but we do express a deadline, a moment in time in the future before which we will have finished our project. And that's why we use the future perfect simple. We will have finished our project by the end of the month. Okay, another example. They will have rehearsed quite a bit before their first performance. So clearly they are still rehearsing. They haven't finished that action yet, but they will finish that action at a specific moment in time. They will finish before their first performance. Okay, and that's why we use the future perfect simple. They will have rehearsed quite a bit before their first performance. Okay, now the second use of the future perfect simple is to express a future ongoing state. Now be careful, we're expressing here a state. This is not an action. Okay, furthermore, this is a state that will have started at a certain time in the future, but it won't have finished, okay? For example, I will have lived in the UK for 10 years next month. So clearly here we're using the principal verb to live to express a state. Okay, this is not an action. Furthermore, next month this state will have started, but it won't have finished. So here I'm expressing an ongoing state in the future, and that's why I use the future perfect simple. I will have lived. Okay, another example. Next week she will have had my book for over a month. I hope she gives it back soon. Okay, so again here we're expressing a state because the verb to have, or have a book in this case, is clearly a state, not an action. Furthermore, we're expressing that in the future, next week, this state will have started, but it won't have finished, apparently, right? And that's why we use the future perfect simple, expressing a future ongoing state. She will have had my book, okay? On the other hand, we use the future perfect continuous to emphasize the duration of an ongoing action in the future. Okay, so let's have a look at a couple of examples. Firstly, she will have been working there for 30 years next month. So let's break this down, okay? So there is this duration, 30 years, which we want to emphasize, okay? Furthermore, this will occur in a future, next month, okay? And additionally, the action will be ongoing. She will keep working there afterwards, okay? Now, all of this combined means that we have to use the future perfect continuous, okay? She will have been working there for 30 years next month. Another example, he will have been training for over a year when he actually runs his first marathon. So again, let's have a look, okay? There is again that duration for over a year, which we want to emphasize. Again, this will occur in a future when he runs in a future his first marathon. And additionally, he will keep training afterwards for further marathons in a future, right? And all of this together means that we have to use the future perfect continuous. He will have been training for over a year when he runs his first marathon. And now, as usual, let's do some exercises, okay? So I'll give you a sentence omitting the verb, okay? And you have to decide what the correct verb tense is. Do you use future continuous, future perfect simple, or future perfect continuous, okay? I'll give you a little bit of time to think about it, and if you want to, you can pause the video, okay? Now, first sentence. He to be with his girlfriend for 5 years next week. So if you want, you can pause the video. And the correct answer is, he will have been with his girlfriend for 5 years next week. So we use the future perfect simple because we're expressing an ongoing state in the future. Okay, so clearly the verb to be is a stative verb. We don't express an action, we express a state, and that state will be ongoing. It will have started, but it won't have finished next week, okay? And that's why we use the future perfect simple. He will have been with his girlfriend for 5 years next week. Sentence number 2. They to work on this project for over a year next month, but they still have a long way to go. So again, if you want, you can pause the video. And the correct answer is they will have been working on this project for over a year next month. So let's have a look. We use here the future perfect continuous because we want to emphasize the duration of a future ongoing action. Now, the duration which we want to emphasize is for over a year, and this will occur in a future next month, and clearly the action won't have finished yet. It will be ongoing because they still have a long way to go, and that's why we use the future perfect continuous. Okay. Sentence number 3. I to go to Scotland for work next week. Okay, so again, if you want, you can pause the video. And the correct answer is I will be going to Scotland for work next week. So here I use the future continuous because I'm expressing a future plan. Now remember, when using the future continuous to express that future plan, then you do so in a bit of a formal way comparing to the present continuous, okay? Sentence number 4. We to finish painting our bedroom by the end of the day. Again, if you want, you can pause the video. And the correct answer is we will have finished painting our bedroom by the end of the day. So we use here a future perfect simple expressing a finished action before a certain time in the future. So we will have finished painting by or before the end of the day. And the final exercise. You to fly home by this time tomorrow. So again, if you want to, you can pause the video. And the correct answer is you will be flying home by this time tomorrow. So you see, we use here the future continuous, will be flying, expressing an ongoing action in the future. So at this moment in time in the future, by this time tomorrow, okay, your action will have started, but it won't have finished. You will be in the middle of the action, okay, and that's why you use the future continuous. You will be flying home by this time tomorrow. Okay, now that's it for today. I hope you have learned something, and if so, subscribe please. Okay, click the notification bell, give a thumbs up, or just leave a comment down below. Okay, so once again, thank you for watching. Bye bye, till next time.